What is up, everybody? Week 30, 2024. We're in the middle of it. I hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody's getting their training in. And I hope everybody's just having a good time out there, having that hard fun. Just been writing down a few little tips and things that have just come up in conversation with people over the last couple weeks. And, just throwing some things out there. So, talking points and just things that maybe spark your interest. Maybe you'll have some more questions on the topics. Just remember the 80-20 approach, right? Towards training, 80% of our volume needs to be at this zone 1, zone 2. And when I talk about zone 1, zone 2 with you, I'm talking about the zones I have sent you on that sheet of paper, the broken down zones on that 7-zone system. Not the zones that when we transfer them over to Garmin. That's just so your watch can play nice. Just remember, when we transfer them to Garmin zones, Garmin can only allow 5 zones. So zone 1, 2 that I talk about out of the 80-20 system is really just zone 1 in Garmin. So don't think that if you're in zone 2 in Garmin, after you transfer everything over, that's where we want to be. You got to really remember those numbers and where you have to be as well, pace-wise and or heart rate, especially for running. Because when you're out there and you're in it, you're in the race, don't worry about what zone you're in. You should still know what your body's doing at a certain heart rate. And if you look down and see a certain heart rate that's not really in the zone that's good for long-term aerobic fitness, remember, your body can only do what it's capable of at that time. And if your heart rate is too high and you're in the middle of a half marathon or a marathon and it's already towards that threshold zone because you jacked up your heart rate a little bit, it's really not going to end too well. You can't push through that. That's when we have to stick, and that's why pacing is so important, and working on pacing and certain zones in training. And remember that 80%, that zone 1, zone 2 that we're talking about is super, super important. The more we can hammer down that training in those zones for biking and running, is we're able to feel fresh and prepared for running hard, getting some hard workouts and some hard cycling in. And it's all about strategically planning your week out. I have a track workout coming up tomorrow morning with a few people, and I do want to be kind of well and refreshed on there. So today was my, moderate bike ride, my midweek bike ride. It wasn't an interval bike ride. That was yesterday, so I had some time to recover. I had some other speed work, a 5K Monday night, so I didn't want to beat myself up today because I know that I want to put forward, some good splits tomorrow when we do our interval work. So it's all about making those smart decisions out there, and it's all about, proper and just understanding, what you do today can and will affect your future workouts that you have planned for the week. Note on the bike trainer, if you have any issues with your bike trainer or that type of setup or anything with any of your wearables, technology, anything that we have, I know because there's so many things now that track and do all this stuff for us during training. Please let me know. I'd rather troubleshoot it sooner than later than find out weeks into the plan that something is not accurate, or if you've been wearing a heart rate strap and we've been using that data and now all of a sudden you just decide you don't want to wear it, just let me know, because that may give us some erroneous readings as far as heart rate goes and things like that. We might have to switch more towards a pace-based style of going with our zones here. And on the workouts, the bike workouts, so if you are doing, for the triathletes out there, most plans, half Ironman, we're aiming for 3 bike rides a week. Of course, yes, we have that long bike ride that's going to progress in distance towards race day. And then we also have 2 midweek bike workouts. One is usually some type of interval work where we're pushing a little bit of power. Remember that 20%, trying to get within that 20% range of pushing harder, kind of outside our comfort zone a little bit. It should be pretty tough. And then there is some moderate or higher moderate efforts in there on that other bike ride day. And I've been structuring now that second bike ride during the week, not just as an open-ended easy workout. If it's for beginners, it's your first 70.3 plan, chances are you might have just a true easy spin your legs out ride, because you're not used to the volume of working out 6 or 7 days a week. But for some of the intermediate people now, you'll see on the plan now it's starting to pop in there with set power numbers. And I've been doing this now for quite a few weeks. I've been doing these double workouts based off power during the week on the trainer. And I'm definitely noticing a difference, and a couple people have reached out as well, that we're able to, you'll see at the end of the workout, especially on Zwift, when it gives you your average power for the workout, these are going to be some decently higher power numbers, these 2 workouts during the week. A little more than if you would have just jumped on the trainer for an hour, open-ended, and just decided to ride your legs. We get kind of complacent and lazy over time when we're just doing an open-ended ride. I typically reserve those for outside of the structured training plan, more towards off season. We can just have some fun on the trainer, pick some hilly routes, just ride, and it's really, it doesn't have to be so structured. But every one of these workouts on Zwift, especially for triathletes, are building week after week. You'll notice the intervals get longer. The sweet spot workouts, those Zone X workouts, get a little longer. So it's important early in the plan to adopt and want to do these workouts. They should feel easy enough to do now, but if we miss or just don't do these workouts and we don't progress with the power plan, once you get later in the plan and you have these sustained or longer interval type rides that we have to get in, you're going to start to realize they're going to be pretty difficult. And if any of these rides, if it's a structured ride that's giving you the power that you need to do, if you feel that it's too easy, maybe your FTP has gone up, we need to retest. If you feel that it's too hard, talk about it. Maybe we can adjust your numbers down, and I'll give you some tips and tricks on how to adjust while you're in the workout if you need it to be a little harder or a little bit easier. You'll notice as well on the trainers, there's an option. There's an option to be in ERG mode, ERG mode. And that's going to, if you have to ride at, say, 200 watts for 2 minutes, it's going to basically force you to be in that 200 watt range. It's good for beginners to learn and keep that. And then if you want to change it up once in a while, I would recommend on the set intervals, the short intervals, keep the ERG mode on. And if you want to take it off on those other rides, it'll give you a power range to be in. And that'll give you the freedom to try and have to get in the right gear, spin up a little bit, be at the right cadence, and try and maintain power. Because remember, when we're out on race day and we want to sustain a certain pacing plan or certain power on the bike, your bike's not going to automatically say lock in at 180 watts and say, okay, we're going to do this for 2 hours now. You have to be able to be and learn to be in that sweet spot range that we have to get in when we're working with power on the bike. Also, a couple people again, and I get it, you are kind of like second guess this whole running easier, more moderate, more often type training. Just remember though, yes, we can get into the physiological benefits that it actually does to your body to be in these zones based off of the type of fuel it burns, what it does to your mitochondria and your blood volume, and the how much less fatigue that it builds up in your body. But just remember, all encompassing, this is sustainability in sport that we're looking for. If I see it all too often, and I was borderline with myself, is go hard too often, will work for a little while, but you will reach your breaking point a lot quicker. And what happens when we reach a breaking point? Consistency then is not there. And when consistency is not there because we need to take time off because we're either sick or injured, that's when you lose. You will lose your fitness a lot quicker than it takes to gain it. So picture getting into this sport, just getting out there, grinding, getting after it, just workout after workout. You see big progress, it's happening, it's coming along, and you're feeling good, and then all of a sudden you get a huge major setback, and you're going to take a little bit of a setback, and then what's going to happen after that? When you're cleared to come back into it, you're going to try and jump right back in at your numbers, and that's another whole mental block that we'd have to go over. And it's going to take a long time because some people either may get re-injured or they're not realizing that they need to take a bunch of steps back and slowly build back up to where they were, where this type of training, it will yield you better results long-term as well because of, again, the sustainability aspect of it is this allows you to be so disciplined and consistent with a larger volume of training that you're able to keep for the entire year. So if you're the type of person that wants to do this 12 months out of the year and be in sport and train and be healthy, that's what we need to do, is we need to do it properly. And especially as we get older and then you get into the master's level athletes, it actually benefits you more to slow down because you're able to hold that higher volume. It's less cortisol in the body, it's not messing with your hormones as much, and you can sustain more training. So that's great. You'll be able to train more, get more fit. But remember, fitness, especially endurance sports, is not instant. It is such a world, again, I say it all the time, of instant everything. Instant Instagram, Insta coffee, Insta this, Insta that. Everything we want now, or we don't want to wait. Like when you text somebody, why didn't they text me back? Endurance is still the humbling aspect of life where, You need to put in day after day after day of the smart work. And fitness doesn't come in such a linear fashion. You will stagnate for a little while, you put the work in, you be consistent, and then all of a sudden, boom, you just notice an increase, or race time drops down, you're able to hit the pacing plan, and you're like, wow, this is working. And it's when I get those messages from the athletes, or we talk about a pacing plan for an event, and they hammer it down and they get it right, and they say, wow, this is really working, and they finally can trust the process. And once you're hooked in for the long term, man, you're going to get so close to reaching your potential over time. And that's not going to happen in one season, 2 seasons, or 3 seasons. You're talking, this is going to go on, and which to me is a more fun journey. It's going to go on and on and on for year after year after year. Again, I'm about 8 years of consistency into sport, and I'm still working to incrementally better myself and my times and the way I do things, just a little bit at a time. And that's all going to add up. And that all comes down to just really the consistency and the discipline of it. If you haven't, 80-20 endurance, 80-20 triathlon, or 80-20 running, grab the book, grab the audio book. Listen to it. Listen to it from Matt Fitzgerald. He lays it out so well. That is the coaching philosophy that I teach. Now, I'm also an 80-20 certified coach this year. I decided to be all in on his type of training because it's helped me and so many athletes be able to just be in this sport with that consistency that we need to see the results that we need long term. As well, a couple of issues came up, not issues, but questions about swimming, because we're in the open water now, so there's a lot more open water miles going into your training peaks here. And just know that it is, if you've been in the pool consistent and you go into the open water, it is just 2 totally different types of swimming, 2 different totally types of things that related to swimming. I mean, think about it. You're in a pool, you're in such a controlled environment, you're staring at a lane line, you're able to see your arms in the water, people are able to see you and critique your form. You're able to really get good data from session to session on what your intervals were, what your hundreds were, your 400s, 1,000-meter time trial. We're able to use that data and be able to see if your form is progressing, because that's all swimming is form. You can't muscle through swimming. It's all about skill. So that's one thing. If you want to get better at swimming, I always recommend you need to link up with a coach that's able to spend the time with you one-on-one in the pool, a true swim coach, where you can make those sessions and they can make those corrections right then and there on the spot, where they can do videotaping, they can do photos, they can do underwater cameras, all that type of stuff in the pool to correct the type of form that you need. It's very hard to watch videos online about form, go to the pool, think you're doing it right without getting that feedback from somebody else telling you are or not. Because I can assure you, you probably all think you have the greatest form, and then you see yourself on video. I know it myself, and I'm like, oh, I still do that? Because it doesn't feel like it in the water. Now we take that swim fitness and go out into the open water. What we do need to have, though, is the strength in the water, because we do have currents, we do have waves, we do have some adversity to face out there. So you'll notice in some of these past races, these Ironman races, when like some kind of a storm or current came through and a lot of swimmers got to be pulled out of the water because they weren't able to make the swim time or even make progress in the water. What was the difference between the swimmers, unfortunately, that couldn't get out of the water or work with the current and those that were able to is really strength in the water. We still need to have strength. We still need to be able to pull the water faster than the current is pushing us in the one direction. So if you don't have the strength to overcome that current, you're not going to go anywhere. You're going to tire out, and then unfortunately that's going to be the end of your day. So strength training, super important. The proper form and able to maneuver through the water is very important in open water. And don't beat yourself up. In the pool, you can kind of beat yourself up session to session because it's really just data versus data in a controlled environment. Open water, though, like we're headed out there tonight, like I have no ambitions on what my pace could possibly be out there tonight because I don't know what the conditions are going to be. Some days are a lot worse than others. Some days are more average. We can average, up to almost a minute difference per 100 in each direction because of the current. Other nights it's more of a slack tide and we're able to be a little more even and, we have a good night. So when you go out open water swimming, don't necessarily worry too much about the yardage. This is what helped for me over the past couple of years, is just switch to time-based. If you know you're trying to swim about 2,000 yards out there, just make sure you're swimming for about 40, 45 minutes. Because if it's a rough night out there, as long as you get the time in, hey, you only swam 1,750 or 1,800, it is what it is. Next week, maybe go out and just swim a little longer time-wise and just work your time up a little bit outside in the open water. And just getting acclimated to the open water is just awesome. You know, get out there as much as you can. But remember, we still want to have as much good form because, again, race day, we don't know what the potential conditions are going to be like. So we do need to have some good strength in the water and be able to get through the water better than it is fighting against us. So that's what I got for now. Again, and I was just testing out a new little setup right here. So we're going to see if it uploads all right. But keep at it. Keep after it this week. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Don't forget, keep balancing that life 1 mile at a time. And I'll catch you all soon.